Hello everybody, this is WarriorDan, and today we are going to be taking a look at Outpost Zero. Now, I've been intending to do a video on Outpost Zero for a while now, and in hindsight the main reason I haven't was because frankly I forgot about it. That's not to say that this is any direct fault of the game, but rather the unintended consequence of having an overfull schedule. But that said, now it seems only appropriate to make up for lost time. Outpost Zero is a sci-fi themed exploration and base building game, developed by the relatively unheard of Symmetric Games, and published by TinyBuild, everyone's seemingly favorite indie publisher. TinyBuild seems to be building up a reputation as the darling of indie publishing in recent years, but that's a video for another time. The game starts out with an extensive, albeit skippable tutorial, but one definitely worth playing through for new players. It teaches you all the basic controls and illustrates the purposes of various constructible objects and buildings, after which point the tutorial ends and seamlessly transitions into the full game. Unlike most tutorials, the game doesn't reload the world or otherwise reset your progress, but in fact you just keep playing, which in my opinion is totally awesome. I think that's the way you should do a tutorial for most games, so good on them. After building an initial base, which concealed you from most enemies and harmful weather conditions, I'll get more on that later, the main way to progress and unlock new content is by collecting resources and using said resources to build new machines that will inherently produce more resources. You can see how this evolutionary chain of material consumption and production kind of feeds into one another. The machines and other technology in your base is really key to having a successful run here in Outpost Zero. The standard gameplay loop usually involves you running out of your base to locate a supply of some resource, hold down left mouse until you decide you have enough, then run back to your base and use one of the machines to build the desired item or advanced material. Now, every machine requires power in order to run. Your base has a central power station that acts essentially as a sort of nervous system for the entire building. Upgrading this station increases the maximum amount of energy it outputs every second, as well as its maximum storage for said energy. You can build secondary power batteries that siphon off energy from the primary power station for the purpose of acting as backup power generators in case your main power supply runs out. Each machine and building inside your base consumes a certain amount of power or energy. In this game, the terms are fairly interchangeable. Upgrading said buildings will somewhat reduce their power consumption rate and increase their productivity. But still, until you've spent several hours optimizing the state of your base, it's probably a good idea to turn off whatever machines you happen not to be needing at that time, as in real life, wasting power is not such a great idea. So always think of the ecosystem first. Be environmentally friendly. Turning off machines specifically will disable their innate ability to automatically construct objects or other resources, meaning you'd have to pull out one of your tools and hold down left mouse to complete the operation. It's a roundabout method, but still pretty effective. As I've indicated earlier, there are these environmental enemies that can spontaneously appear at any point, with the game giving you only a few moments of warning in advance, making it critical for you to bring a reliable weapon or two with you wherever you go, especially if you, like me, are out there gathering resources some distance from your base, and have to go trekking back to your base because enemies have begun an assault on it behind your back. Trust me, you don't want to walk into a room full of enemies with only a melee tool at your disposal. Weirdly enough, enemies, as far as I've seen, don't seem to have any particular reason for laying siege to your base, other than they're bored and it's a Saturday night, so why not? They don't steal anything and just seem content to make war with your little security drones and whatever other defenses you have set up. But hey, to each their own. The game does have a questing system, where objectives are scattered around the world that you can choose to undertake at any time. Personally, I'm content to stick near my own base, just in case some natural or unnatural disaster should decide to strike. That's just how I prefer to play these kinds of games, and it's nice to see that the game doesn't really punish you for choosing this particular playstyle. The quests are just there for those seeking a bit more on the side, and that's absolutely fine. Speaking of disasters, I do like the randomness of where they will be and where they'll strike. Sometimes near at hand, and other times somewhere completely distant from your location. Part of me wishes we got to see even more kinds of disasters. A sudden, unexpected volcanic eruption, for instance, causing a spreading pool of molten lava to slide near to or through my base, or some kind of momentary loss of gravity, a destructive tornado. Any of these would have made for cool additions. Disasters that would essentially force me, the player, to respond differently depending on those specific circumstances and caveats. But the disasters on hand are still interesting and definitely worth avoiding if you happen to be within the radius. Overall, Outpost Zero is a enjoyable sci-fi themed survival game that has proven itself as one of the few successful examples of what an early access game should be, starting with a engaging premise and game mechanics, then spending the early access period smoothing over the initial gameplay flaws and listening to player feedback before acting on said player feedback by implementing those necessary changes that will gradually transform your game from an incomplete mess into something that can finally stand on its own 2 feet without the crutch of the early access label. While it still has a few gameplay flaws here and there that I can continue to nitpick at length, I feel perfectly comfortable giving this game a casual thumbs up and recommend it to anyone interested in similar base building games such as The Forest. Although admittedly, I still consider The Forest to be the best survival game on the market right now. No offense, Outpost Zero, but there's simply no competition with The Forest. At any rate, that's where I'm going to wrap it up for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. And if you do want to see more videos like this one in the future, please do click that subscribe button down below and opt into getting notifications via the bell down below, so you can be among the first to know when a new video goes live. Recently I was lucky enough to hit 400 subscribers, and that's awesome. I really love having that milestone, and I want to keep producing good content for you guys, so every ounce of support really matters. This is not just a standard YouTube outro thing. It does actually help. The YouTube search algorithm is kind of funky right now, and it's been funky for a while now, so every bit of support really matters, and I appreciate it. Hope you all have an awesome day. This is WarriorDan signing out. Stay awesome and peace out.